evening, everyone. Bear with me. I'm just going to switch off the camera to add the three guys to obviously the video feed, and we'll make a start.
I'm on, Mark. Hello, Andy.
All right.
All right.
How's it going?
Right. So I'm working, but Mark isn't.
I am. I was merely adding the term. Just waiting for young Danielle to. Oh, he's here. He's here. Bear with me. I've just pressed accept, so hopefully he's on. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, James. I can see he's straight on there. I'm not late. I was on here already. And good evening, Gal. Good to see you back out and about doing your thing. So good to have you. But I've just seen the evening benders. That's slightly hard, but also true. So I'm not going to argue too much there. Bear with me. Let me just add young Daniel. See if I can get Dan on. Hopefully he'll pop on in a second. Sorry, bear with me, guys. For some reason, when you press accept, it doesn't necessarily put you straight on there. For some reason, we found this out last time to our peril. So this is the first and inaugural, technically, Wings Monthly, although I would imagine the first one in January probably did that. For some reason, I can't seem to add Dan on, which is really frustrating. Oh, he's there. There he is. Hallelujah. We have a full house.
Yo. How are you doing?
Brilliant. Right. Well, first of all, thanks everyone for joining. Massive thank you to our guests. They're guests, but in Christian's case, he's been on before. I'm not going to do an introduction this time for me or young Dan, but we'll start with. I'm sort of glad, before I say go any further, I'm sort of glad Christian shaved his beard off. Otherwise, it should look like some sort of Bee Gees tribute video. We'll start with the greatest beard of them all in the top right corner of my screen, and that's Mr. Andy Beck from Lofty Models. I don't know if you want to just do a quick, brief introduction of yourself, mate.
Yeah, I'm Andy. I run Lofties Hobbies. Not really much to tell you, to be honest.
Oh, come on. He does the best deals on the market. That's what he does.
He is. And that we'll get to that in a minute. And now part of the reason we want Andy on here is that actually, you know, I speak. I'm sure Gary's on the call as well. Or on the call, it's not to make it sound like on the video as well. Watching, you know, a big thank you from me, Gary, and Dan. You know, Andy's been fantastic for us in terms of supplying models. You know, and as Dan touched upon, he without doubt the best in the market in the UK, as far as we're concerned. So part of the reason we want him on this call, one, it's a good opportunity for him to talk about his business and what he can do for anybody in the UK and I guess around the world if the postage is right. But also thank us for supporting us. And well, I say supporting us, I mean obviously costing us loads and loads of money, but the cheapest amount of money possible at the time. And so I'm not going to blame you for my impending divorce, but you definitely played a part in that. So I just thought I'd make feel a little bit of guilt there. I'm only kidding, by the way, everyone. Christian, do you want to do a quick introduction of yourself?
I've been on before, so I'm just a prolific member on MH3, prolific collector of the hobby. Do a bit of research. I'm a paramedic. I used to be a soldier. That's about it, really. I don't know what else.
And you're a massive, obviously, Royal Australian Air Force fan, which we'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah,
which might.
And I'm in computers.
Yeah, but try not to get too angry about it though. That's all I'm going to say. So look, thanks guys. I really appreciate you joining this. This is going to be, for those who are just obviously tuning in, will be saved. It will be shared on the Instagram and on YouTube and on the Facebook page, and it's going to be a monthly thing where we get together, talk about a theme potentially for the evening. Also you know, Dan, I think Dan has appeared to disappear off of the screen. Bear with me. Let me just press accept. He's obviously, for some reason, he's crashed. But yeah, so it's going to be a monthly thing where we'll get together and chat about anything that's in the hobby, any sort of releases, and also talk about different themes and things that different collectors collect. And we're going to try and have a rolling lineup where we can get different people on every month to talk about different things, rather than just listen to me waffle on about all things Essex, West Ham, and Spitfires. So, look, thanks guys for joining us. For some reason, Dan disappeared. This is just like a still shot of him. It looks like he's posing for some sort of next photo shoot for some reason. So hopefully we'll get him back on in a second if it accepts. Bear with. So what we do is we've got a bit of agenda tonight, which we'll fly through. We're going to try and keep it to within the hour. I'm going to try, before we move on, let me just try and see if I can add Dan back in, because for some reason it's gone completely bonkers. Nothing like a technical things to start the night off. Oh, for God's sake, it'd help if I could type as well. DWC backup, where are you? For some reason, it's not finding him when I'm trying to add him in now. Sorry, Dan, if you're watching, I'm trying to add you back in. It's just not letting you. It's just not letting him come back in for the minute. So you might have to go on for now while I try and frantically add him back in at some point. So, Andy, so obviously you started your business a little while ago. Do you want to talk a little bit about Lofties and why you started it and how you got into this very dark path of modelling madness?
Well, I've always collected myself. I've always been a massive collector. I've collected since I can remember, really. I always collected Corgi from a young age. But like when I was a teenager, I always used to be doing something. I used to I restored push bikes, bicycles, all that sort of thing, sold them on. So yeah, it sort of went from there. And before I started Lofties, I tried to start up. I collect rocks, fossils, minerals, all that sort of thing. And I came across a wholesaler in York. Made a few phone calls, and I spent a couple of months trying to do that. Spent an absolute fortune, didn't sell a thing. So I sort of, let that go a bit, and I was sort of, I had a month or so where I was sort of trying to think of, what else could I look into. And I got in touch with someone at Corgi, I can't remember his name, and I was looking into getting an exclusive model done. And after about a month sort of back and forth with them, they finally got back to me, and it was like, the cost was absolutely eye-watering. So I was just like, nah, I couldn't even, I could take out loans from every bank going, and I still wouldn't be able to afford that. So I did a bit more research, found a couple of suppliers, again, made some phone calls, and again, spent a fortune, and that's about it. Started taking pre-orders, and yeah, that's how it came about, really.
Well, we're incredibly thankful for you taking that risk, because obviously, I think a lot of people don't realise how much you have to invest in order to get a business off the ground, and it is a risk, isn't it? We've just seen Hatton's, one of the biggest retailers in the UK, go under, which is sad for, in the bigger picture. Excuse me, pardon my hiccups. Dare I say, a shop just isn't an option nowadays. Would you say it's a fair assessment? Working for obviously I work for a leading food retailer, I won't mention in case they get upset of me doing something outside of what I'm paid to do. But, looking at the rates in a central London shop, we paid something like £75,000 more in electricity last year, just from my shop. And it's just hardly sustainable. But are you thinking of doing, stuff like shows and stuff like that? Is that a viable option for you as well?
Not really at the minute. I have looked into it, but the first one that I really considered was doing something like, getting a stand at RAAF. I made a few phone calls with that, and it's like $2,500 for the weekend, and it's just not financially viable at all, because it's not just the $2,500 to pay for that. It's having to stock up as well, because I tried my best to work on pre-orders. I keep very little stock, just to be on the safe side. But I don't have the room for stock. I don't have a shop or anything at the minute. But when you really think about it, like, you know, when I go to RAAF, you know, I always go with my mate, and last year we were really sort of, you know, keeping an eye on things, and you go both days, and they've still got the stock left on the second day that they had, you know, that they'd taken down on the Friday. Like, I don't understand how they could make money from that. Yeah, it's good for, you know, advertisement and, you know, getting flyers, leaflets out and that, but I don't know how they make money.
No. No, I spoke to obviously a guy who used to work coming our page Al, and he still does a little bit, but I think he does it mainly from home now. And you know, you think of someone like Duxford, the amount that Duxford try charging traders just to set up the pitch before you've even factored in petrol costs, if you're over day costs, if you're travelling halfway down the country, because obviously you're based up North Leeds way, isn't it? Sort of
just outside of York.
So you know that's, you know, considerable cost if you're hiring a van or you've got a van. All that factors in, doesn't it? You know, you don't do this for free. As much as you love the hobby, you do it to try and make your life a little bit easier and your family's life easier by bringing in a little bit more money, which is absolutely the reason anybody runs any business. But it's tough out there, isn't it? I think that's probably the message, really. I guess I want people to understand that what you do isn't an easy thing to do in the first place. There's a massive amount of risk that comes in with that, isn't there?
That's why I try and stick to pre-orders only. But you know, like at the beginning, you know, it was difficult because I tried to sort of make it fully prepaid, pre-order, and you know, understandably, people weren't happy with that. Which, you know, it's totally understandable. But you know, it's not a massive risk just sticking on the pre-orders. But I think, you know, buying stock and hoping that it'll sell, I just don't know. I think it's a bit of a dying trade, really. You know, I look at other retailers and stuff, and I'm quite amazed how, you know, they're managing to keep going.
No, I completely agree. And of course, you know, when you have a business that sometimes, now I'm using Corgi as an example. Obviously, they you know, if you think that the Typhoon, for example, the GNA Typhoon, I refuse to call it Gina, because it always used to wind me up with Gina, but the GNA Typhoon was really anticipated. A very simple thing made it not, I wouldn't say unsellable, because I don't think that's the right word to use. It's a brilliant model. You know, we spoke about this at great length. But when you have something like that, and if you've invested a lot in pre-order, at nearly £200 a pop or whatever it's going for, that's huge risk, isn't it? If you've ordered 20, I mean, you just have to do the maths, you know, and then you're stuck with that and you can't shift it, or you're going to make a massive loss on it. So I completely get where you're getting at. But sort of getting to what you do, those people who don't realise. So do you, you know, you obviously you post to the UK. Do you do to mainland Europe as well?
Yeah, I can do. I mean, obviously costs involved, so long as costs are being paid and that. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind shipping out to wherever worldwide.
So another thing I want to talk about, if you don't mind me asking, and I need to pay my money for you, and I'll give you a message after this about this. We are over on the Facebook page. You're doing a raffle. Do you want to talk a little bit about that raffle? What you're doing over on there?
Yeah, so I've got it's about 600 quid worth of stuff. Tickets are £5 a go. As soon as they're full or near enough full, I'll do a live giveaway. There's some really good stuff. There's I've got it here in front of me. There's Corgi, the new Corgi Harrier. Rest is hobby master stuff, apart from the Legion models IL2.
Yeah, which lovely model, mate.
Yeah, cheap little thing. It's great. I really like them.
Christian, if you've got one of those IL2s,
I do. Yes, I've got one, and I plan on getting another one soon. There's a retailer in China that I score the occasional IL2 off. They're a great little model. They're quality, and the modelling on them is really, really good. I don't know how they do it. It used to be something that Corgi could do back in the day, but yeah, it's fantastic tooling, fantastic model.
Yeah, it's got like pre-shading on it as well, isn't it? But
yeah.
No, I just getting back to what Andy's done. I know there was a Hobby Master F14 on there, which is a fantastic model in its own right. But the new Corgi, what you call it, Harrier, is a mega model for anybody who hasn't got it as yet. It's a brilliant model, and that's one of it's worth a fiver of anyone's money, but 600 quid's worth of model. I'll try and share it onto the link onto Instagram as well for any of the Instagram followers who don't follow the Facebook page. If you don't follow the Facebook page, just type in DWC and try and see if you can get over onto that page and join it. And then, like I said, Andy, the instructions are really simple around, just literally forwarding the money PayPal to Andy, and then Andy will do a live on here. Or I don't want to do it with the page or whatever works easier for him. You could even do it on the next Wings monthly if he wants to. You've got that forum if you want to, mate. But it's a brilliant thing to do, supporting a good business, but an even better prize. I tried to bribe him, but he won't have any of it, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. He's keeping stum. So even if I did, I think I'd probably raffle him away on the page anyhow. So I just think it's really important that we support an up and coming business that. Just to give him a shout out as well, and I can honestly say this, that you won't find any models in the country, whether it be on eBay or through a supplier, cheaper than Andy. So do hit him up. He'll get them to you as soon as he gets them through the door as well. So in terms of the future, Andy, you're going to branch out into any other brands? I know you do Hobby Master and Corgi for the moment. Is there any other brands you're looking to branch out into?
Yeah, definitely. I do. I've got quite a few customers for like Hot Wheels and Mini GT, cars, Kyosho, all that sort of thing. But it's just there's so much to list. I mean, I'm working like 3 jobs at the minute, so I don't, I can barely keep up with just doing a couple of Hobby Master and Corgi announcements occasionally. But like pretty much any brand, Diecast brand, kit, whatever. I can get hold of it, so just send an inquiry.
No, that's amazing. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff coming out this year. I'll share your page through the Instagram stories as well. Tag you in obviously the post at the end of this as well, so people know where your pages are. So if you are new to this page, make sure you follow Andy over on Lofties. I think it's Lofties _hobbies, isn't it? I was trying to tag you in the chat, but it wouldn't let me do it then. Is it Lofties?
Right. I think so, yeah. Lofties _hobbies.
What do you mean you think so? You bloody hope you know what you.
Honestly, I've go on Instagram probably twice a year. My mate set up this one for me. Facebook every day. Very rarely go on Instagram.
And of course, over on Facebook as well. I mean, you'll find him linked through the DWC page as well. Completely endorse all 3 of the lads, myself, Dan, who I can't seem to add back on. I think it seemed to have jammed on, so he's just got this still picture of him just in the corner. He hasn't been staying that still this entire video, ladies and gentlemen. Just to clarify, I'm trying to add him back in, but it looks like the video links broke or it's jammed up, so you can't add him in. But yeah, look, please go and follow Andy over the page, and like I said, drop him a message if you want anything coming up, because there is a hell of a lot of good stuff coming up, which we'll get to in a minute, Andy. And you can talk through. But look, thank you, really kind of you joining obviously tonight's video. We'll keep you on if that's all right, and you can talk through some of what you think is going to really sell this year in a minute. We've got a few other bits and pieces. I know James has asked about the bloody Condor. No, we are not talking about the Condor names. We will not mention the Condor. The Condor does not exist. In terms of other bits, I don't think I've missed any questions. So it does say, James has asked, Andy, what's the T-shirt? Is that your own T-shirt?
Oh, the T-shirt? No. So one of my jobs, I work aircraft maintenance at Breton Airfield for the Real Aeroplane Company. It's G. George Lancaster shirt. They do a different one every year. They have a G. George Day. This one was a couple of years ago. Don't know where newer one is.
Well, that was years ago. That's where the Hurricane and Bouchon were based, was it? And obviously the pink BR11 at one point, wasn't it? When it come back from Florida was pink with D-Day stripes, which is James Foster's favourite colour, Spitfire, isn't it?
Yeah, 956, I think the reg was for that.
And James has just said, "You're very smart. I like it. Good to see." Good to see it represented. I'm trying to get Dan back in, but it just will not add it. for some reason. So Dan, I know you're trying to watch and you're trying to add. I'm trying to add you in. I think the system's broke from my end. I don't know if it's an old version of Instagram or something like that. I'm working. So apologies, mate. But look, no, really appreciate you, Andy, being on there. Like I said, stay on. We'll chat through some bits as we go. So we're going to move on to the next bit now on the agenda, because I don't want to keep you on here too long, and that's about obviously the latest releases from January. So I'm going to go over to Christian now, because he's been sitting patiently in the dark in Australia. And it's probably about 3:30 in the morning over there, or something ridiculous that he usually is. So you wanted to talk about obviously the Hobby Master releases. What do you think of the new poster which was released the start of January with the Mirage 3 in?
Yeah, I think it's a fabulous poster. It's one of the best posters, I think. Mainly because it's got a 1/72 World War II P40 in there, so that's very exciting. We haven't seen one of those for a while, so there's a lot of diversity in that particular release poster, and they really are going quite hard on the French Mirage, aren't they? So that's the third release in almost 4 posters, I think. So they're going hard on the Mirage 3C. Yeah, I think it's one of their better posters. It's a big poster, huge, and it's got a 1/48 stuff as well, so everyone should be able to get a bite out of that. Very good.
I don't know. I'll ask both of you on this. It's a shame Dan, I can't get Dan. I'm trying to add him in, but he's just not having it for some reason. One thing I wanted to cover about it is on this poster and the poster before were a few releases. Well, this one more than the previous one. The previous one had the Bearcat on, the Blue Angels Bearcat, which has, of course, previously been released obviously by Skymax, and it was on there. And then this time around there was the A4, the Top Gun A4, which has previously been released. The Thunderbirds F-16s with obviously different variations, wasn't it? I forget which number it was. And then there's one with a decal where you can obviously customize your F-16 as well. And of course, there is the Hellcat, the Blue Angels Hellcat, which is again as rare as hen's teeth. What's your feelings on this, guys, around releasing previously released models, which then make the cost of those models, if you've got them in your collection, you held on to them to try and sell them, go down? So a bit like the Corgi Eurofighter GNA in 1/72, when obviously Hobby Master and the JC Wings Abomination come out, which is shocking, we don't really talk about. But what's your feeling? I'll start with you, Andy. What do you think? I mean, I don't know if you've got any of that existing stuff, which is now... Yeah.
It's obviously it's a pain in the ass for the people that have got the original stuff that, like you said, they've held on to, hoping that things are going to, carry on climbing in value. But I kind of understand that, there's stuff that from years and years ago that I'd love to get, and it's just I can't afford it. And I'd love to see Hobby Master Corgi and other companies re-release something like the Avro Arrow. Hobby Master did years ago. You're lucky to get one under 300 quid now.
Yeah,
I'm lucky enough to have the one with the orange on it, but I'd love the all white one. But that's topping for sometimes even 500 quid. And I've sent email after email to William at Hobby Master to ask if they're going to re-release it. Just because I don't want to pay 400 or 500 quid. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of them. It's a bit of a two-sided thing, isn't it? It's a pain if you've got the original models and you're hoping to maybe sell them one day, or just like the fact that they're increasing in price. But then again, there's the people that didn't have the chance. It gives them a chance again.
Christian, how do you feel about this? Because obviously I know you're a passionate man about the hobby in general.
I'm pretty comfortable with it, and if it makes HM money, that's fine. But I think more importantly, and I think Andy hit upon this, the most important bit is that if you want to get new people into the hobby, you need to release releases that are going to be popular. So you can't just hold on to releases from 10 years ago and then they're going to cost a fortune to buy for the new hobby. For new people in the hobby, you release it now, or particularly release a similar scheme, then at least those people who want that scheme want that aircraft can get one without paying a fortune for it. And I think that's good for people into the hobby.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I think there's merits in both. You know, if you think originally that Hellcat was probably about 30 quid, but it's going for close to 70 now, I think, isn't it? Maybe even a little bit more, depending on import and who puts it in. So you're paying twice as much for it originally. It was originally anyhow. But
yeah,
if you think like that the Top Gun 84 is one of those models that I look at and it don't pay a lot for, but with the Top Gun Maverick coming around, it's added a little bit of extra value to it as well, a little bit of commerciality. And of course, I've got, I think, is it Fist of the Fleet they're doing as well, HM?
Yeah.
That's Iceman's, isn't it? Fist of the Fleet. It's a shame Dan ain't here. Dan would be all over this. You know, but I do get it. I think that just looking back at the comments there, I think, you know, a couple of comments. One is about, you know, HM want to make as much money as they possibly can. Do you know what? If it's a banker, do you know what? It pays for potential new mould if it sells out and they can do a bigger run on it, or if it's a split run like they're doing with the Thunderbirds. It's just easy money, isn't it? They're printing money just by making models. Now, actually, also, dare I add it, from a retailer point of view, Andy, it's good for you guys as well, isn't it? Because you know it's a guaranteed seller. You know, you print, or you do aircraft, which is a themed aircraft like a Thunderbird, a Blue Angel. You've got that. A lot of people the theme, didn't they? So, you know, and us collectors just can't help ourselves, can we? You know, when we've got one, but well, if we're gonna have 8, we might as well have 8. You know, so you know, and there's also those people out there, I'm sure, who would probably buy all 6 in terms of if it's a Hellcat, for example, for the Blue Angels with a decal you can customise. There's people out there who probably will buy 6. Not many, because there's not that many rich people out there, but there's that aspect as well. So, I mean, I'm sure Andy's not going to moan too much if he can, you know, if you get a request for 20 Thunderbirds, it's, you know, you make 2-3 quid on each one. It's money in the bank, isn't it? Once we've done it. And no, I would never ask you how much you make on each thing, Andy. That's a trade secret, mate, of course. But I'm sure it isn't amazing now because of the cost of bloody import, bringing it all the way from China. And then you've got to bloody distribute the thing, which don't, you know, and then you've got the chancers who want to try and say it hasn't been delivered. You know, there's so much to take into account being a retailer as well. So and Andy, going back to you, what's been the biggest interest, would you say, from the HM poster that's come out? Have you had a lot of interest?
I'm a little bit behind on this latest one. I've still not got the prices out yet, but I've had a lot of people messaging about. It's always F-18s. They're always, you know, and obviously the A4. But the F-18s are always popular.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very good F-18. So it's a JR. So it's another JR, but it's also got mission mark. So it's going to be a very popular release, I reckon. I reckon that'll go very quickly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm surprised you haven't had a lot about the Thunderbirds. I guess it's probably more a US based fit. It's still a hard model to get hold of, isn't it? I'm waiting now for the Anthem for Bird to be released. That would be like printing money. You think how hard it is to get hold of the F4 Phantom in the Thunderbird scheme. That would be, again, you know, they must be looking. Maybe that is what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to work through and go, you know what, that is a theme. Let's stick to a theme and do the whole lot, because, like I said, if you have one, you've got to sort of almost go for the rest, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's why I've stayed away from them, to be honest. But it's tail numbers as well. I'm a bit OCD, so I'd have to have, you know, number 1 of the Blue Angels, number 1 of the Red Arrows, and all that sort of thing. So, you know, there's been quite a few times where I've gone through, you know, supplier's site, added everything to my cart, looked at the price, and gone, nah, I can't do it.
So what are you looking to get out? So I'm going back to Christian, because I know also you're a serious collector of pretty much. You've probably got the more eclectic collection amongst all of us. So I mean, I was just it's World War II. Dan is now sort of on jets. You know, Gary sort of flicks between bits and pieces, but you do post-war, you do interwar, you do World War One. You know, you do all the way up to modern warfare. What are the ones you're looking at hitting on this poster?
Definitely the JR F-18 because it's got mission markings. The P-40N, look, there might be a couple of P-40 schemes I could think of apart from this one, but I'll take it. And it's national metal finish, so it's going to be a little bit different. And it's just such a wonderful tooling. Like it is that and the Corgi Gustav are the two best, European type toolings around in the 172 fighters, and one of those zeros, I think. Anything from Rabaul is going to pique my interest because it's very much in the Pacific War, or Southwest Pacific War. That might be about it. I kind of like Mirage, but it's a scheme. It's a classic French scheme, but for some reason it doesn't really tickle my fancy. I think mainly because I'm more interested in the later version of the Mirage. So I'm waiting for Mirage 3E. Obviously because of the connection. So we'll see. That's a maybe, and maybe one of the F4s. I think it's a pretty big poster for me. It's one of the bigger ones for me in a while.
You didn't even mention P40, the silver P40. I thought you'd be all over that.
I did mention it.
Oh, did you? Oh, sorry, You must have cut at that point then. I know you mentioned
it was
but that's the one
I would choose over this one, but I'll take it.
It's a pretty plain scheme, is it? There's not an awful lot about it, but it's so different that it's sort of a bit like the Malayan Bowfighter, where I know you've got a strong post-World War II, and it sort of ticks your box, Cold War and what. But it's so different that it's really quite likeable in my eyes. And I know obviously James was surprised, and obviously James was really, really surprised that it even existed in the first place. I don't know where he's been in the last few years, but it's a great model, P40N.
I actually think it's fantastic. My biggest criticism of the tooling over the years has always been they've had the same scheme for the first 7 releases. So they've done the desert one, the controversial RAAF desert scheme for the 112 squadron, very controversial, and they've done an Australian for I forgot the name of the squadron, but it's not 3 squadron, and they're the only 2 that haven't been anything other than the green with the green blotches. So my biggest criticism of the tooling is, all the releases essentially the same scheme. So this one's completely different. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Andy, is there anything that you fancy, being a collector as well as obviously someone who deals with them as well? Is there anything that really spikes your interest?
It'll be both zeros and the P40 for me, definitely.
That's interesting. Well, I'm trying to stick with 148s because otherwise, I did say that, and I bought a Phantom and a Lightning and God knows what else. But I'm trying to steer clear of them. The 148 zeros any good from Hobby Master?
I've not got one personally, but they do look absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, just talking about the 148 zero, Christian. Any good from Hobby Master?
I think they're based on there's a fellow by the name of Landslide or Ian Chris on the forum. His dad is a historian, big Japanese historian. So I usually take my cues from him because he's very knowledgeable in the zeros. Generally speaking, the tooling is very, very, very good, and just occasionally some of the markings can be a bit wrong, but other than that, it's a fantastic tooling. So I've just got the last. In fact, I arrived yesterday of the last one of the last, and Chris was saying that before on the forum that pretty much nailed it. It's probably the best ones. So it's a very, very good tooling. The new zeros here is a slightly different part. William has confirmed that the engine cowl will be different. They've got tool for. So it'll be a different mark and it'll look different, and it should be pretty good, I think. But overall, it's a very, very, very good tool.
Yeah, I'd be interesting to see if they do the clipped wing. Is it the pump, the one which
They will, because the new engine, the new cowling for this mark of 0 includes the clip wing Hemps.
Yeah, that's it. And there's, for anybody who don't know, we're obviously touching into real aircraft now. There is actually one for the Military Aviation Museum down in Virginia, Jerry Yeagan's one, which is going to receive a clip wing 0 soon as well. It looks the real business. I don't think it's got a proper Sakai engine. I think it's got an American version of Pratt & Whitney or whatever it is in there, but it looks sensational because they're much easier to run and maintain, because there's just no parts for the original engines, unfortunately, apart from one airframe, I think, in America that's got it. So that I do like, I've always been a massive advocate for producing aircraft that we see on the scene. I think James has just touched on it about a P40 on the UK airshow scene. I absolutely want the silver fighter collection one done by Corgi at some point, which I've got a code 3 waiting. Me and Gary was going to do it. He's obviously watching as well. Gary's going to do it, but we need to find the bleeding decals. They're hard to get hold of. But that, for me, talking about winning schemes, that's a winner as well. And of course, Hobby Master could actually jump in front and do that, because they've got the 148 PB mould as well. So, and it doesn't have a hideous canopy either, does it? So, there's lots of scope for lots of things to be done. But I think for me, sorry to add my bit on the end.
It's been absent, that P40B tooling.
Sorry?
It's been oddly absent. We haven't seen a release from that tooling for a long time.
No, since the RAAF Neville Duke one, wasn't it, with the blue splodge on the fuselage? That was the last one that.
Not the Gem. The last one was a.
No, it was Pearl Harbor, wasn't it? Second Pearl Harbor one. Sorry.
There was the Pearl Harbor one, yeah, which is odd.
2 Pearl Harbor. There was the Chinese-based one, and then obviously the RAAF one. So there's 4. But then same could be said with the Hurricane. The Hurricane's been absent for it did the black one, didn't they? But hasn't been massively produced. But the other one I was thinking of, sorry, just to go completely off tangent, was the Meteor. The Meteor has been done, was it 3 times since it was retooled? And that was it. It's just disappeared. It hasn't been seen in about 5 years. So it shows you, doesn't it? You've got to make sure you get the tooling right to produce it. Otherwise, it could be a bit of a stinker. So anyhow, moving swiftly on. This is the one now. Obviously, we've covered that, lads. So very, very much. This is the one where I think you could lose. Dare I say, you could lose your mind on this one, Christian. The Royal Australian Force Canberra. Let you have a few deep breaths before we get to you on that one. And
look, I've had to say, I'm not going to get all emotional over it. Look, I think. Look, there's a lot of history to the Australian Canberra. That was one of the frustrating things to it. This particular airframe, which is in Christchurch, in wonderful condition, it served in Malaya first and then onto Vietnam. Had a lot of operational history. 2 squadron. You'd be hard find to pick a squadron, a bomber or interdict squadron post-war, more operational years, continuous operational years ever, globally. There's probably some squadrons from the War on Terror, but so it's got a lot of history. It's got a unique scheme. It's got a unique armament. I've been talking about this black release for 20 years, literally, on DAF and various other places, and it finally happened, and they've made a complete mess of it. I'll say one thing. The factory gave Corgi what they asked for. I just want to make that quite clear. There's been a suggestion that this is a factory issue. It's not. The factory delivered exactly what Corgi asked for. So that's all I'll say on that. There is the only. It'll be great for Code 3s. The colours actually quite similar to Argentinian Canberras. So if you take off the bombs and racks, then you might have a bit of an Argentinian Canberra. If you take off the bombs and the rack, maybe do a bit with the colour, then you'll have a good RAAF Canberra from Malaya, because they did carry the 500-pound GP bombs, the British GP bombs, opposed to the 750-pound M117s. And that's it. It's just a real shame because it's such a unique aircraft with a unique military operational history that look completely different from any other Canberra ever, that ever served, both in colour and its weapon loadout and the history of it. And Corgi just completely fucked it up. That's the only way to describe it. It is a dreadful release. And it's got to sell.
Yeah.
And I've been ages that this model would be a sellout. I've been saying this for 20 years that this model would be a sellout, and it's going to be a sellout. Dreadful. So imagine what it'd be like if they'd done a decent job of it, and it'd still be a sellout. But I've got a Code 3 from a friend of mine in the United States, which is the most amazing model, amazing Code 3 I've ever got, and it's fantastic. So I don't lose out. But there are hundreds of Australian collectors and British collectors and US collectors and Vietnam collectors, because it's Vietnam War, so those with Vietnam themes, which in the United States is huge. They're going to miss out. They're going to miss out on a decent Canberra, and I think that's a shame.
So actually, yeah, talking about obviously the retailer side of things, so it's a perfect opportunity to get over to Andy. Andy, how much interest you had in the Australian Canberra from people coming to you?
At first, quite a lot, and it genuinely pre-sold with my suppliers within month and a half, something like that. But within the last sort of month, the number of cancellations has gone through the roof. So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
How many are you looking to get? Out of curiosity.
I'm not looking to get many at all. Pretty much just a handful, to be honest.
So the thing is, obviously I want to play a bit of devil's advocate, sit on the fence, whatever way you want to look at it. So I'm going to show you something. I don't think I've ever shown this on the thing, because I'm sitting, obviously I live at my mum and dad's now. And this handsome bugger, as you can see, is my dad. And he worked on 39 Squadron. There, I don't know if you can see two Canberras parked up. He was at Whittam and Marham for a period. So I am a Canberra boy. But I don't know an awful lot about it, other than the 6 I've got parked up on my dad's shelf there to the left-hand side. So and Christian's probably going to hate me for saying this. I think it looks better than I thought it was going to, because when we see the pre-pictures on MH3 forum, that green looks, how can I describe it? I would use the term lime, but I think fluorescent would probably be closer. But the grey is the bit that tips it. The green actually on in hindsight is pretty okay. The grey is just way too light. I know obviously someone shared a picture of a weathered Canberra flying with a relatively freshly painted one, wasn't it? But
and I found out where that picture was, and that picture was taken off the coast of Malaya.
Yeah, that was Vietnam one.
Yeah, it's private modifications for Vietnam service when it transferred to Phan Rang Bay.
Yeah, so there you go, and you answered that the bit before, and I know obviously from yourself and Sid Huey, aka Mark, have been real advocates for really pushing this aircraft for years and years and years to be released. It's been a decade since that aircraft has been tooled and released, and they've obviously done the work with the open bomb bay. I think it's pretty good. Looking at I think the bombs are correct, isn't it? Was it meant to be 6 rather than 8 in the bomb bay?
Is it 4 instead of 6? So
yeah.
So the thing is, look, if you take the bombs, the wingtip bombs off, and the racks, and you left the internal bomb bay, they've got probably a typical warload for Malaya 2 Squadron Vietnam. 2 Squadron Canberra. So in that respect, it's probably okay. But the problem is the colour, I don't know. The story behind. Look, I'm not going to go into it too much about the story behind this. I was having the biggest bum fights about this aircraft, about this model on DAF a decade and a half ago, and I've been fighting hard. And finally, I convinced a lot of important people in the hobby that it was actually a worthwhile release, and they put a lot of work into it. And I just got to be careful what I say, because I just don't want to ruin relationships. But Corgi got what they asked for. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I guess that with everything, and and I'll give kudos where kudos is due. That David obviously put his head over the trenches and come on to MH3, which took a set of balls. I don't think
it did, and it's unfortunate.
We had it with Noel before, when Noel put his head over the trench and charged in. Charged in with his bayonet fixed.
Dave's not a dickhead, but Noel is a dickhead. And look, it was just unfortunate that he put his the parapet as the Canberra got released. It was unfortunate because, I personally think Corgi's had a great run in recent years. I think they've had a wonderful run with some great models. The Beaufort and the Beaufighters, and I think they've just had a wonderful run. This is literally the worst model, I reckon, since the first Vulcan release.
Yeah.
And
I think visually it doesn't look terrible, but when you understand the ins and outs of it, it doesn't look like another model, does it? It doesn't look. Oh yes, I know there's been some discussion around the wingtip bombs, and they're the wrong type of bombs, and bomb bay might be the wrong amount of bombs in the bomb bay, whether it's 6 or 8 or whatever. I get that. Is it meant to also be a glossy finish as well? Because it doesn't look as glossy as perhaps the one in Christchurch looks. I don't know if that's a preservation.
So the when you get the glossy finish in museum birds, that's part of the
preservation. Yeah. So I didn't know if that was the case, because sometimes when modelers or model makers look at aircraft, they'll model them in the preservation model, but not make. Yeah, okay. I didn't realise that. I thought that might have been the case. I know the Americans do like to slap a bit of gloss on their aircraft, as G Fire once found out when it arrived in the States. It was glossed up beyond. I don't know how many layers of gloss they put. It made it hideous looking, and I think the Canadian Mosquito has a element of gloss on it as well. The one that is based north of the obviously US border, which isn't technically accurate, but of course it protects the airframe, doesn't it? So I didn't know that, and whether it's the case. I thought I'd ask that question, but I think I think there needs to be lessons learned from it, and I'm sure Corgi will. They're not going to come on the forum, are they? They're not going to come on and say, "Do you know what? Model's crap. We don't want you to buy it," because that would just be crazy business sense. I still think it will sell. I don't think it will sell at the level it probably should have, but I think you're right in what you said around the model, because you look at that interest when it was launched at RAAF, and how
it was
the pre-order
fire over this release.
Yeah.
It wasn't just on the forum, because people get, including me, people get too wrapped up in the axles over what happens on the forum, but Facebook, on social media, it was on fire, so popular, and seeing the Americans enthused about it as well, because it was it's just a classic scheme for a Vietnam. I get the frustrating thing is that we won't see another one. If we see another one in the next decade, I'll be struck dumb. This is the one. You know what Corgi's like. This is the one shot for the aircraft. So it's a damn shame.
No, it is. I mean, Andy, you got any thoughts on what you think's gone wrong there, or
sorry,
what they think of it?
I don't know. I could talk about Corgi all night. I mean, their QC and stuff that they've done wrong in the last couple of years. Yeah, they've had some good runs with some great releases, some really cool schemes, but I really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, going back to QC, it's an absolute nightmare. I've been a big Corgi collector pretty much all my life. I love Corgi, but I really don't look forward to getting Corgi deliveries in anymore, because half of them I need to send back, and it's over just really stupid things. I mean, the last ME110 that came in, I'd send every single one back because they had tail wheels missing. The panel gaps on the nose were horrendous, and it's the same story nearly every single release. There's just so much that the QC is just horrendous.
Do you think it travels sense? Do you think it's because it's being shipped from the Far East in blast countries? It's going further. It's taking longer. Is that a factor? Is it the way they're being packaged? Is it the packaging? Is it the age of the molds? Is it a factor of everything? Do you think?
I think it's a bit of everything, really. The packaging's always been a bit stupid, with the vac form crap. I mean, the P38, that's a classic example. It's the packaging in that really is horrendous, and the amount of emails that I sent and copied in complaints from my customers because people were taking them out of the boxes, breaking the pitot tube, all that sort of things. They're so tight in.
Yeah.
And then I remember the release after, all Corgi had done was put in a little card saying, please be careful when taking them out of the box.
I don't know about you guys, but one thing that really frustrates me is the up undercarriage being fitted in the model before the amount, especially on the ME10 and the P38, getting that snapping a pin is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
At least Hobby Master identify that with the small little pin thing they give with the hook on the end. It's handy to get that off, and if you keep one handy to one side, you can do it with all your models. But it's I think it's well worth feedback. I'm going to catch up with Michael at some point over the coming week or so. Because I still want to get Mike and David on for a chat, whether that looks at whether I go down to them at Margate or whether they do it this way. Because I think we all agree, whether right or wrong, whether it's Hobby Master, JC Wings, Corgi, we all want the models to be the best possible scenario, and they want us to be the best looking models, QC perfect, and paint colours right in a lot of cases. And we want it to be right for the hobby. Because like I said, now we're paying 20 quid a model, we're paying 50, 60, 70, 180 quid if you want a 148 model. So we want it to be right because we haven't got time or money or patience to. That's why we collect Diecast and not build Airfix.
That's right.
And that's I can build a model, but I can't paint. Well, I've got better, but not like Gary's level or Dave, who was on he just popped on. Dave Hunt, hello Dave, hope you're well, mate. I see him commenting on there as well. So yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? It's just frustrating. But look, like I think again, it's all about balance, right? The last bit I was going to get onto is what your last model has been the last month you purchased anything. I've just purchased in the Corgi sale. Sorry, Andy, they went really cheap. I'm sorry if I cheated on you this occasion, but I did go off the Corgi website. I'm really sorry. Forgive me. Okay.
Mind when there's a sale on, I jump in first. I don't care where it comes from.
My last 3 models, I'll start first. Recently, I got a voucher for Corgi, so I managed to get the B26 pre-ordered for £95 delivered, which I think is a brilliant price in comparison. I don't even think Andy probably beat it because he's the only man I know who could beat it, but I thought that was cheap. And I've also got the hobby points for Corgi as well. But I've also just recently bought in the Corgi sale, much maligned ME109 from Greece. With the red tail, which I know it's got the extra area, which I'm glad James isn't on the call because it'd be foaming at the mouth at this. And it's a really lovely model. And also got the Eastern Front Heinkel H111, which is one of them ones. I don't think the scheme is quite executed the way it is meant to be, but it looks the absolute. I haven't sworn all night. I'm going to swear because it's nearly 9 o'clock. It looks the bollocks. It looks the absolute bollocks. I've done really well there, actually. I'll let Christian do the swearing for us all.
Yeah.
Amazing models, all 3 of them, really, really good. And I should really put a pictorial review or video review on of the 2 that I've got here anyhow onto the page, which I will do soon. So we start from the bottom. We start from all the way down to Australia. So what have you really bought this last month, Christian?
I'm prolific as always. The Japanese Zero that I mentioned before, which is it's fantastic. I scored myself a JC Wings 747s, a British Airways 747 with the Scottish tail, which I used to see at Mascot quite often. I've taken a lot of photos of it, so I bought that. And the F105 the F105G with the Tiger Mouth with the it's a Vietnam one from 1972, and it's a wild weasel aircraft. It's the one that's got the shark mouth or the tiger mouth, whatever it is, weasel mouth maybe, I don't know. And it's a fabulous model as well. So they're the last three that I got in a box yesterday.
Oh, very, very nice. I love the fact that you are prolific. You like literally just. You have that illness that we all have on the call, unfortunately, Christian. Where we just can't help it. Andy, so obviously we haven't actually spoke about your collection. Do you have your collection displayed, or you are stick them in a box in the loft sort of guy?
Everything's in the loft at the minute.
Oh, Andy.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, don't blame me, mate. So have you bought anything particular over the last month or two?
The last few I've had Hobby Master Vandy F18, Hobby Master MiG 31, MiG 15. What else was there? Johnson Spitfire as well, the 48 scale Johnson Spit.
Oh, nice. That the one with the two letters on, or just JJ written on it in
just,
the very
yeah, just JJ, just slightly. I think it's just under the canopy.
That's it. Yeah. Rather material one.
I think.
Sorry, Christian.
It's a Mark 9 Spit.
No, 14, isn't it? Is it 14?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
14,
yeah,
I think.
Oh, okay.
The 148 Hobby Master one. Actually, I do like that. I'm not overly keen on the Hobby Master 148 Spitfires, but the 14s and the 18s and the 19s are stunning. I love the big old nose on them as well. They're stunning bits.
Fantastic.
They really are. I think Jason, who's on the page, I haven't seen him on tonight actually. He's usually one of the stalwarts first on watching the video. He hasn't come on tonight, but I know he bought one of them and he did look the absolute business. Look, I've kept you all for an hour. Just sort of sum up. Thanks for coming on, guys. Apologies that Dan has. When I upload the video, that Dan is literally just sitting still in the corner of the screen. Unfortunately, it looks like the video feed didn't work properly, so I haven't been able to add him on. So hopefully next time I'll get Dan on. He can host the call next time if he wants to. More than happy. But look, thank you both, you Christian, obviously for getting up at stupid o'clock all the way down to Australia.
Can I just say quickly, just a shout out to Jim, a stalwart of the forums and the hobby for a couple of decades. He's doing quite poorly. I shout out to him and his wife Lorraine.
Yeah, all the best, Jim. All the best from all of us at DWC as well. I hope you get better soon and get back on your feet. It's not nice when you have someone who certainly suffers. It's horrible to see, especially someone who's in the same hobby and has the same interest as you as well. So all the best from all of us, mate. Of course, in the UK. Andy, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's nice to put a face to a name. And the man who sends me all these naughty things through the post. I will obviously get that money across to you. I've got Rafe's birthday tomorrow, so let me get that out of the way and I'll ping it across to you for the weekend. But for anyone at the end, joined at the end of the call, please come over to the Facebook page. I'll share the link on the Instagram page as well. He's doing a raffle for over 600 quid's worth of diecast, including the Corgi Harrier in 148 scale. It's £5 an entry. Please enter and support him, support his business, which is a great business. And of course, any pre-orders or any Hobby Master and Corgi, he's your man to go to. And like I'll say, I'm sure Christian will even agree, and Dan and Gary, of course, he is the man to get your diecast. Okay, so thanks, mate, for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. Hopefully,
thanks,
go on, Christian. Sorry,
I was just saying thank you to Andy.
No.
I think it's fabulous to get a retailer on here and put his perspective on. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for having me. It's been really appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, like, to put it in simple terms, he is our drug dealer, pretty much. So we just had our drug dealer on our call with us. he's our Carlos Escobar. But no, thank. And like I said, just to reiterate what I said at the start, I'm sure Gary and Dan, if Dan decide to ever move his face, so he looks like he's just stayed still for an entire hour. Thank you, mate, for what you do for us. We really, really appreciate it, and we're really glad to see that your business is thriving and people are coming to droves to you, because at the end of the day, it's what you provide a brilliant service, and we're all really grateful for it, mate. So, and are you going to do Sidewell this year for the I dare call it Flying Legend, not Flying Legend, but it looks like the greatest air show that's...
Yeah, I'll definitely be going to Sidewell. Whether I'll be going down with a friend of mine or whether our company's trying to sort of get involved at the minute, so we'll see. But I'll definitely be there, whoever I go down with.
We'll have to meet up for a beer. I'm
definitely.
It's a shame, Christian, you can't get over to Sidewell because it looks like the show of the year this year.
This year that I'll be going to. It'll be all right.
Phenomenal. So hopefully we'll catch up at Sidewell, if not before, Andy. If you're at Duxford or something like that, just give me a shout. And the same for all the DWC followers, everybody who's on the Facebook page or Instagram page. I'm sure we'll sort something out. We're going to have a little meet up or whatever. All of us, it'd be like Alcoholics Anonymous, but for Diecast. And we'll sit in a circle with chairs and talk about, hello, my name's Mark. I'm from Essex and I have a serious model collection problem. So,
are you putting it on YouTube, mate?
Will do. I'll save the video. I'll hopefully edit it a little bit and add the intro video, which I've knocked up as well, which I did share on the Instagram page.
Once you did that, and I'll start the thread on the forum for it.
Yeah, if we put it on the forum, it'd be great if we have a bit, like I said, some of the MH3 guys on this in the near future at some point. And like I said, I've already spoken to Dwayne, Andy Curtis, who's the plane modeler. If you don't follow him on Instagram as well, I've got Michael Lowe, who I'm planning to put on next time, who's the World War One expert as well. So we're going to do a World War One special. Hopefully Sam's going to be on this. So I want to involve more people. Gary, James, if he wants to come on as well. It's lovely to have loads of people who are in the hobby together, have the same addiction issues that I have, but also interest. It's great to talk to like-minded individuals and share our hobby and make it. I really, really support it, because it is tough times with it at the moment. The economy's all over the show, and we want to make sure that this hobby goes on for to come. So when we're all older and greyer and our beards are slightly longer and whiter, we're still collecting model planes well into this century. So look, cheers guys, thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for sharing your Wednesday night or Wednesday morning with me, Christian, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching.
You. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.